Hey, sports fans, this is Robert with WTP Sports Dudes here live tonight. I had to get on this evening to talk about the whole Brandon Sorsby decision, the backlash that may take place on Texas Tech because of this decision that is being made for him to be eligible to play this season after gambling on college sports, actually betting on his team when he was at Indiana, which we all know is a no-no in sports. I don't understand what the big deal is about the fact that they feel like this young man should be able to play. The reality is he gambled on sports. He gambled on his own team. You do not have to be as old as the story behind Shoeless Joe Jackson, Pete Rose, or Art Leaster to know that you cannot gamble on sports, especially your own team. We already know what the backlash was for those three individuals who had some gambling issues. I understand Brandon Sorsby should be allowed to go to rehab to help himself when it comes to this addiction to gambling. I'm all for that. But the reality is this young man gambled on college athletics for 4 years. 4 years. Over $90,000 worth of bets. The reality is this young man knew that gambling on athletics and gambling on your own team is illegal. You're not allowed to do that. At every college and university, they let each one of their college athletes know these are the rules that you cannot break. You get that repeated to you every year throughout the year about the rules when it comes to college athletics. And this young man repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly broke the rules of over 4,000 bets. And you mean to tell me he deserves the right to play college football in 2026? Let me bring my man T1 in on this discussion. How you feeling this evening, T1?
Not too bad. Not too bad. It's a beautiful day. I'm off work, so I'm just chilling, man.
I feel you. I feel you. It's
Chilling.
good
How
to
you
see
feeling, bro? How you feeling?
I'm good, man. You know, just like you kicked off your camp. We're in training right now, ready for the children to come on Monday. So kudos to you and your camp that you're running over there. And we'll be up and running on Monday. And I'm doing great, bro. I'm good to have you on the show with me tonight.
Yes, sir. But yeah, man, this is a joke, and this is the America that we live in. Where some people can do it, some people can't. And that's just it in a nutshell, because this is absolutely ridiculous for a student athlete to be able to do something, as you stated, that he's not supposed to be doing. Do something that they've told you not to do every single year that you've been in college. And you say, I don't care. And you go out and do it, you get caught, and they just smack you on the wrist. Unfreaking believable.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And the crazy thing about it is the court who ruled that he should be allowed to play is talking about the NCAA didn't consider the fact that, his rehabilitation and the fact that, he deserves the right to earn money from his name, image, and likeness. But the reality is, if you break the rules, you should not have a right to earn money on your name, image, and likeness like all these other people in college athletics who did not gamble or who did not break any rules. That made no sense to me. How, and like you said, only in America can this kind of stuff happen. And I'm all for second chances, but his second chance does not mean he should be allowed to play college football.
But I'm not so sure what type of chances a student athlete should get for gambling on a game, and especially during the time where they're paying you to play football. They're paying you to play football. I mean, really, you can take the the name, image, and likeness out. They're paying you to play football. You're not out there promoting yourself, and I don't think these players don't have 5, 10, 15, 20 endorsements. You know what I mean? They don't have a lot of endorsements. The schools are paying them to play football. Point blank. If you break a rule, that should be snatched away from you. That should be snatched away. There's no way that you should still be able to make money so you can do what? Give your friends the money to go gamble it all for you.
Yeah, I
Ridiculous.
totally agree with you on that. I mean, the fact that you are making money is a clear sign that why do you need to gamble to try to make more money when you're not really doing anything other than something that you love doing, which is playing the sport of football, to earn this money that you're getting. And Texas Tech is paying him upwards of $5 million. Now I don't gamble, but I'll be damned if I'm going to gamble $5 million. I'm not gambling any of that money. I'm like, man, I'm about to set my family up for life with that $5 million or how much ever of the amount is. We know it ain't gonna be $5 or $50 or $500 or $5,000. We're talking about seven freaking or six freaking zeros, bro. Six
Hey,
zeros.
hey, Rob. If I was a betting man, which I'm really not, or if I was a gambler, which I'm really not, I do little friendly bets. But if I was a betting man and had a disease like this young man most likely has, I'm probably gonna put some money on it that maybe somebody came up with a couple dollars to make sure that this got swept up under the rug because we know, especially down there in Texas, that money ruled down there. And they got big long money down there in Texas. They say everything in Texas is big and them pockets is big and they deep. So if I had to put some money on it, somebody pulled some strings and made some things happen. And now, as you stated, he's able to go out there and make $5 million.
Yeah, I'm quite sure somebody definitely pulled some strings. And from what I understand, the judges who ruled on this, four of them happen to be Texas Tech alumni. So it's like, come on, man. How can we keep on having situations like this where the NCAA says you're ineligible and then you can go to a court that is favorable to you, the player who's filing the injunction, and they happen to be alumni to the school in which you're representing. We've seen it in the case with Trinidad Chambliss. Now we're seeing it again in the case with Bredan Sorsby. That's shouldn't that be a conflict of interest?
I don't know why not. I don't know why not. That's ridiculous and only in America.
Oh yeah, you're right about that. I said on a previous video, and I really was, and I'm sticking by this. If I'm Texas Tech, when I found out that information from whoever it came from, whether it came from the University of Cincinnati or not, wherever it came from, once it came out and it was found that it was true, and the player admitted that he did such a thing as gamble on his team and gambled on other sports in general, as a Texas Tech staff member or person over Texas Tech, I would have been like, listen, We got to rule this guy ineligible because he broke the rules, and do the right thing and keep your integrity as a Texas Tech University. You want to keep your integrity in that instance. You had a golden opportunity to do so, and they chose not to simply because they want to do what? Win games? It got to be more than that, right? Is it more than that? Is it really about the kid, or is it about winning games, or is it about what is it about? What do you think about that? Shouldn't Texas Tech have come out and said something, or at least punished this young man before it got to this point?
Hey, you have to understand too, Rob. Everybody doesn't have the standards that the Texas and Ohio States have. They're just happy if they can get to the college football playoffs. If they can get to the college football playoffs, it's a big, gigantic success for them. Or even if they can win the Big 12, that's their national championship. That's their successful season. And some people would only take a little bit to make them happy, and I guess that's what you're seeing right here down there in Texas Tech.
Yeah, to me it's mind-boggling, man, because I think we've been dealing with a situation really in sports period where we've seen so much cases where the integrity was not there that you would think, and it sounds like a lot of coaches and a lot of teams and a lot of conferences are trying to get the integrity back in the sport of college football. And then you have an instance like this with Texas Tech having an opportunity to keep the integrity or to build on the integrity, and they don't take advantage of that. And I think it's truly sad. I remember back when Texas won the national championship in 2005, one of their star players ended up getting in some trouble, got found with some weed and with a gun, and they suspended him and kicked him off the football team. On a team that they could have really used him that year and not had to only solely rely on Jamal Charles in that running back room that year, but they did the right thing and punished that young man. And even though I wanted that young man to play, I like the fact that they took a stand and stood on their integrity when it came to that. Now, there's some teams out there. You got Nebraska and Georgia who have said that they are not going to schedule any non-conference games with Texas Tech because of this. How do you feel about that?
I agree with them. I don't disagree. I mean, they see that this team is actually they're breaking the rule. It's a silent rule. They're breaking the rule by allowing such player to be on their team, and not just be on their team. They're paying him to be on this team. They're paying him to be their quarterback. So, I mean, yeah, I would feel the exact same way. If you don't have integrity, I'm not playing you, because what else are you doing that we don't know about? We know about this, and you showed us to our face that you don't care. You have no integrity for the game. You have no integrity for sports. So what else do you have no integrity with? So I agree with them 110%. Like, absolutely not. We're not playing you.
Do you feel like some more schools should also be following suit with what Nebraska
Absolutely.
and Georgia has done?
Absolutely. Because really, I think that's a black eye to the NCAA football. I think that's a black eye. You're saying that we don't mind that he broke this rule. We're just going to we're going to have some talk with him, send him off to rehab, and we're going to go on about business as usual. Absolutely. Like, they're basically just playing by their own rules. So play by your own rules. Go schedule you some games.
I will say this: you got the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC calling an emergency meeting specifically surrounding this topic about Texas Tech and this Brandon Sorsby decision to decide on if they're going to follow suit with what Nebraska and what Georgia has done. But to me, I feel like, listen, maybe they are waiting on their conference to tell them what direction to go. But I would take the stance like Georgia and Nebraska did and say, listen, I don't need to wait on my conference to tell me to do what's right. I'm going to go out here and let them know, listen, Texas Tech, unless you fix this thing, we're not going to schedule any more non-conference games with you. Or if in the case of the Big 12, any conference games with you, if we can get away with it, because we don't want to play against an organization that we know is willing to do the things that they're doing right now with this Brandon Sorsby decision when we expect them to do the right thing and say, listen, young man, you broke the rule. We know that knew that this rule could not be broken, but you did it anyway. For 4 years, over 4,000 bets, over
Mm,
$90,000 in bets. I mean, it's to me, it's a no-brainer. And I'm all for rehabilitation and giving people a second chance. But the reality is this: this young man probably got chance after chance after chance because
absolutely.
apparently he did it his freshman year in Indiana, did it again, got to Cincinnati, did it again, and maybe Cincinnati knew it, swept it up under the rug, and they didn't tell on him until after he had transferred to Texas Tech. So he got multiple years and multiple chances, in my opinion, whether he got caught or not, because the reality is he already knew as a freshman going in that you can't gamble on sports, but he did it anyway. If you were and you're an Ohio State fan, do you think you should wait until your conference says, "Hey, listen, this is the direction we're gonna go," or would you take a stance as somebody on Ohio State staff to say, "Listen, we're not playing Texas Tech"?
Hey, I mean, it's definitely going to have to come from the top, or Ryan Day would have to go to the AD and say, yo, if they were on the schedule, they're not on our schedule in no upcoming years. And you have to remember, some of these schedules are made like 5, 6, 7 years in advance. You know, like I want to say our schedule with our back to back with Texas was probably scheduled like in maybe 2018 or something. I know it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
So it would have to come from the head coach, and the head coach having enough power to go to the AD and telling them, hey, we're not playing them. So yeah, I'm on board. I'm on board with any university saying that they're not playing Texas Tech.
Yeah.
In
Do you
conference, out of conference, it don't matter.
do you feel like there might be some kind of underlining um, backdooring of the NCAA when it comes to these rulings like this in the case of Trinidad Chambliss, in the case of Brendan Sorsby, and others who were ruled ineligible by the NCAA, but then they go to court and do an injunction, and then all of a sudden they get reinstated. Is there something trying? Is there some people out there trying to get rid of the NCAA? Do you think it goes that far, or is it just a situation where somebody just found a favorable judge who decided to let them play because they got some ties to their university?
Me personally, I don't like the NCAA. So I'm all the way biased with that. I don't like nothing about the NCAA. I don't know who they are. All I know is they bring in billions and billions of dollars, and who's ever in these positions, they're not doing much work. They just sitting back collecting a fat paycheck. So I hope they're trying to get the NCAA up out of here. I wish that I know it was the SEC and the Big Ten talking. I mean, pull the ACC and the Big 12 in. How about just all four of you just come together and say, hey, let's go ahead and cut out the middleman. And we can keep all of this money. We're the ones making all this money for the NCAA, whether, you know, it trickled down to Division 1 AA or Division 2 or Division 3. Division 1 NCAA college football and basketball is the money cow for all of the NCAA, and they bring in billions of dollars a year. And These universities are just getting chump change, and even the money that they're giving these student athletes right now, it's nothing compared to actually what their actual value is to these universities. It's nothing. You look at a Manning down there in Texas. Yes, he's getting paid a lot, but his value for that university during his time there, it may be two times that. And the amount of money that the NCAA brings in, they actually could afford to give him that money, his worth. So I'm not with the NCAA at all.
Yeah, our man SEC Sean is saying that the NCAA is trying to make rules, but judges overturn every decision. And that's been one of the issues with the NCAA, and the fact that they have not wanted to step out there and rule on some things because they don't want to keep being taken to court in a lot of these decisions. Because, of course, that's going to cost money as well. In one sense, I understand everything that you're saying about the NCAA because they have dropped the ball a great deal over the last maybe 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer than that when it comes to the fact that Ed O'Bannon filed this thing about NIL probably a decade ago, and they had an opportunity to fix it when they had the meeting with a congressman in North Carolina who said that they wanted to start playing their college athletes, and the NCAA was like, that will never happen. And now you spend it maybe 5, 10 years after the fact, and here we are. We have to give this money to these guys, and the NCAA could have been doing that a long time ago because, like you said, they've been bankrolling money, and we really don't even know who these individuals are. I don't think I've
Honestly.
ever sseen anybody who who is in the NCAA, who runs the NCAA. We might see their attorneys inside some kind of some courtroom, but I've never seen an actual employee or whoever runs the CEO of the NCAA. I've never seen this individual a day in my life.
Hey, but let's not, and this isn't homerism, and I'm almost glad it's just me and you on it. It's just a fact. Let's not forget about Maurice Claret and how the decision to not give these students what they're worth to these universities. We're talking about a young man that came in as a freshman and helped lead uh, the Ohio State University to their first national championship in years. And he did this as a freshman. He knew his value. He knew his worth. He even went as far as trying to challenge the NFL to get into the NFL because he was ready to go and make money. And with the NCAA not giving him that opportunity, that man's life took a drastic change. And I like to give him big props for that turnaround that he did with that whole situation because he had a time where he was rock bottom. He was in the penitentiary. He riding around with guns and half a gallons of alcohol in his car, and all because of the greed from the NCAA.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. I remember that story. And I feel like after seeing what Maurice Correa had done that entire season, and in that national championship game, he had a really strong case to be able to go to the NFL after his freshman year. I think his body was ready. I think he was ready to go and compete at that level. Now, a lot of people say when he got his opportunity, he didn't do nothing with it, but he had already gone through so many different changes. I think mentally, at that point, that he probably wasn't even in the right mind frame to even work out well for an NFL team, and that's probably why he didn't make it. But had he been able to go right after his freshman year, he definitely would have been ready because he had already shown that he had the mentality to do so. So
He would have
I
been
think that he should have been able to do that.
he would have been a first rounder. If not
Yeah.
first rounder, second rounder for sure. But I'm not so sure that 30 teams would have passed up on this unbelievable athlete. He actually was something that we really have not seen before. We have seen some great running backs in the Bo Jacksons in the OJ Simpsons and the what was just any of those freshman phenoms that came in, but how many of those freshman phenoms actually, as you stated, I mean, he had some amazing games and even showed his passion and how hard he works to win this game in that national championship game. Because if we don't have Maurice Claret, we're not winning that game, point blank, plain and simple. And I believe that if he didn't have the opportunity to go straight to the NFL after that, he should have very well had the opportunity to earn some money in whatever type of way the NCAA figured out. Like, hey, we have these athletes bringing in millions on top of millions of dollars into these universities, and they're getting a $100,000 scholarship. It just makes absolutely no sense. And actually, I feel like the NCAA owe quite a few people some money. And all this money that they've been making over the years, where has it been? Where is it going? They owe a lot of athletes money that brought a lot of money to these universities. I go as far back as the Fab Five, the amount of money that the Fab Five sent to the University of Michigan in that freshman season. These were all freshmen. These were freshmen out here making the biggest impact that college athletes can have on a university and the NCAA as a whole. I was an Ohio State fan. The long baggy shorts that they bought out was dope. They was dope. I was in high school, and I think I might have shared this maybe only once or twice in my life. I forget the sporting goods store that was up in Northton Mall that sold all the university stuff and the pro stuff. This is back when we was. This is back when you might have just graduated high school, Rob, and but I worked up in there, and hey, they had the long baggy, the long Michigan shorts. I had them and the North Carolina shorts. I had to have them. That's just the type of impact that some of these athletes have just on the whole country when they have that elevated skill set that allows them to have success in the NCAA. And I believe a lot of those student athletes who played a long time ago and were those All Americans and players of the years, I believe they need to be compensated fairly.
Yeah, SEC Sean is saying that the NCAA is asking Congress to give them power to uphold the rules, and the only way to keep the locals from being able to override the rules that they have written. And I think that's a really good move by the NCAA, because when you really look at college athletics, it's not just a local thing. You know what I'm saying? It's really a countrywide thing. So it should not be governed by anybody locally. They shouldn't be able to make decisions when it comes to the rules that the NCAA has, because every rule that the NCAA has made, it governs every school in the nation, not just some school locally in whatever city or town. So hopefully Congress will rule in their favor when it comes to that, and allow them to be able to keep the local courts from overturning some of their decisions as well. He also had another statement that he made, and had a question attached to that. He said, "What do you think of the Big 12 coming together to discuss not playing Tech? It won't happen, but the Big 12 could implement their own sanctions on Tech that are protected by Texas law." What's your thoughts on that? We talked a little bit about it, but should the Big 12 really consider doing something to punish Texas Tech for the decision that they made to reinstate Sorsby when they know that he is guilty of one of their rules of gambling?
At the very least, ban them from playing in a championship game if they make it to the championship game. Like, you will not represent this conference with the decision that you solely made on your own. I would definitely ban them from the champions from postseason play.
Yeah. SEC shot. I thought I read somewhere where the Big Ten, the SEC were all calling emergency meetings to discuss this matter as well as it relates to Texas Tech. Um, in this decision with Brandon Sorsby. But I'm glad old Texas Tech man 9144 is in here with us because I want to get his thoughts too. He says, "Hi guys, I personally think Will Hammond should be quarterback when he's ready. Texas Tech shouldn't be punished. They haven't broken any rules. What's your thought on that?" Well, I mean, of course, Texas Tech went to the court to get the ruling for Sorsby to play. So, according to that, Texas Tech has not broke any rules. But what should Texas Tech stance be, in your opinion, old Texas Tech man, as it relates to Sorsby being able to play or not? But what do you think about his comment right there, T1?
Hey, if I'm Texas Tech and the judge make the ruling and say everything is okay, guess what? Everything is okay. Like I don't know what y'all talking about. I'm gonna fight anything that the Big 12 might come to and try to say, hey, they shouldn't be allowed to play in postseason because they allowed this player to play. Excuse me, the courts allowed this player to play. We ain't do nothing. So that's my stance. I'm if I'm Texas Tech, I'm acting the way I would act if I was South High School. Hey, they didn't say that we did anything wrong, so I have no idea what you're talking about. We'll see you on the field in first week of September. Yeah.
Yeah. I really, like I said earlier, I really thought that Texas Tech would have took the position of saying to Brendan Sorsby, listen, we know what the situation is. We know that we offered you this amount of money to come and play here at Texas Tech, but the fact that you have these gambling infractions, that you have broken the rule, I would have stepped away from Brendan Sorsby and said, listen, we're going to have to rule you ineligible. You can go ahead and petition to maybe transfer somewhere else because you can't play here. Much like I think what happened with the guy at BYU. BYU stood on what their policy is, and the young man did something that broke their policy, and they let him go on about his way. I think Texas Tech should have done something very similar in the case of Brendan Sorsby as well. What do you think going forward could possibly be the outcome if somebody else decides, or somebody else, it gets found out that some other players across the NCAA have been gambling on their teams and on sports, breaking the rules? What do you think is going to happen with those individuals?
Hey, Rob, we've been knowing this ever since we were kids. The second person always the one to get caught. So the next person gonna get it handed to them. Like I said, only in America. Second person getting caught. Second person going down. First one got away with it. So they'll make an example out the next person. It's my
Yeah,
thought.
I think that's probably going to be the case too. Whoever does it next, or when it comes out, somebody has done it out after Brendan Sorsby's whole situation. I think they're gonna get the book thrown at them. Because it's gonna be like, dude, didn't you see what went down with this guy? You still gonna do that anyway? I
And so
wonder
guess
if
what,
they
Rob? My
say it
fault. My
again.
fault. Go ahead. I
I
said I was
wonder.
gonna say no. Go ahead. My fault. Because I
No, no,
kind
go
of
ahead, go ahead.
I
Now you
thought
go
you
ahead.
was done.
Now you go ahead.
I was gonna say like if and also if that happens again, I could just see the university taking matters into their own hands and they won't be the ones having to answer questions about whatever happens in the court or whatever, whatnot. Just that university just gonna let them go because they're not gonna want that type of publicity brought to them.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because I think now we've already seen what happens with the things that's going on with these like the Brenda Sorsby thing, with the thing with Trinidad Chambliss and others. to where now it should be upon the university to go ahead and step out first and say, listen, this is what's happening here, and this is what our punishment is going to be for this individual because we don't agree with them doing this, this, or that. And I think, like in the case of, remember, we was all dealing with the whole Michigan situation, and even though Michigan was handed down some small penalties, I think they should have did it at a bigger scale and not waited on the NCAA to wait 2+ years to decide what their decision was going to be, and it really turned out to be a slap on the wrist. I think that universities need to get out in front of stuff once they find out and say, listen, this is what we found out about this individual or this situation, and this is what we're willing to do about it because we don't want to ever condone this kind of behavior. And I think universities, like you just said, should get out in front of that and take care of it in house, so that way the rest of the country can say, listen, they dealing with a situation that was not right on their campus, and they're doing something about it. They're not trying to sweep it under the rug or hide it or wait to see if somebody else is going to discipline them. They're going to take care of it themselves. And I think a lot of places should start doing that on their own, especially when they know that if a player does something and the NCAA rules on it, they can go to a local court and get it overturned. But if the university says you ain't playing here, you ain't playing there. And I think that should be the case going forward.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's all. I just wanted to jump on real quick and discuss that whole Brandon Sorsby decision, the backlash of it, the fact that at least some conferences, teams are saying to themselves, listen, we don't like this situation whatsoever, and we want to do something about it. And they're not willing to schedule any non-conference games with Texas Tech until further notice. I think that's a good statement to make right now. I'm just anxious to see what the rest of the country is going to do. Is any of these other college and universities going to do anything about it? Let's see what old Texas Tech man says. He says, no, no, no. Tex didn't go to court. Tech didn't have anything to do with Sorsby's defense team. That is true. That is true. Texas Tech didn't have anything to do with that. That was all on Brandon Sorsby. And he said, Tech didn't break rules. That's true, but Tech should not play him, in my opinion. That's great integrity right there, SEC Sean. I agree with you. Tech should not play him. They should make a stance, in my opinion, and say, listen, young man, we're going to go with Will Hammond or whoever the other guy is that old Texas Tech man said should probably start until Hammond is ready. Let me see what else we got in here. SEC Sean said, I heard he placed bets while in Texas where it is not legal. He paid someone else to make bets for him. If true, that's a major law he broke. Wow.
It's definitely true. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about nothing. He had the young man. If he didn't get rehabilitated, the man had a disease. And just to go, as far as hey, go put this bet in for me. It's a disease. Gambling is a disease. The young man has a problem and he needs some help.
Yeah, and he needs some help. That is true. And our man, old Texas Tech man, said what Sorsby's defense said was the NCAA said they backed their players with mental health problems, physical problems, helped them put with Sorsby. They threw all that away, not going to help Sorsby. I understand that, and I agree with. They should have gave Sorsby some type of help, But when you look at a protracted history of him for 4 years, his entire career in college football, this young man has betted, and he went to three different stops where I'm quite sure at all three of those stops, he was told gambling is illegal, young man. Gambling is illegal, but he chose to do it anyway. He even went as far as to get somebody to do the gambling for him. That's a sign that he has a problem and he needs some rehabilitation and some help. But at the same time, you still got to stick to that rule and say, listen, we got to rule you ineligible. We're going to get you this help. But it's not helping you to let you also play football too. You got to pay for you got to have a consequence. And he gets no consequence if he gets rehab and he gets to play. He gets rehab and he gets to play. Come on, man. Come on, man. That's a little. That sounds like a win-win. Instead of him getting any punishment whatsoever.
Yeah, crazy work, man. Crazy that he just has this opportunity to continue to make this type of money, and from the looks of it, continue to. He just gotta pass the money off to his friend.
Yeah. SEC Sean wants you to answer this question. He says, so I'm curious, T1, do you think it's okay for players to gamble on their own teams even if they aren't playing?
Absolutely not. I don't think they should be able to gamble at this period. Like it's a rule. It's a rule. So no, nobody should be gambling anything. It should be a major rule because it's addictive. And all this money that you're making and getting from these universities, you mean to tell me you're willing to lose it just to because you think you know who's gonna win by what point spread or whatever? That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Old Texas Tech man, I'm in 1,000% agreement with you on this. He said, guys, what about Cincinnati, Indiana? Cincinnati plays Sorsby while gambling. Listen, they should get some kind of consequence as well. The fact that he gambled on games in Indiana, I don't know if Indiana knew or not, but Cincinnati knew that he gambled on games at Indiana. And if he would have stayed at Cincinnati this year, he would have been playing, and Cincinnati probably would have never said anything about it. I almost guarantee you Cincinnati wouldn't have said anything about Sorsby's gambling unless or until he had transferred to Texas Tech. Otherwise, they would have kept that thing hush-hush, kept it up under the rug. But the fact that he transferred, then they go tell on him. So that Cincinnati team, that university should definitely be punished for the fact that they knew, they played him, and they let him get away with it. So I really think Cincinnati should get punished. I don't know how much Indiana knew because I don't know how much he ever even got to play at Indiana.
Hey, I think Cincinnati probably told on him, so they know. Like that's why he keep moving around. I believe he keep getting busted.
Yeah, I agree. They should have some consequence too in that matter. Anything else you want to talk about this whole Sorsby issue, the NCAA, the direction you see this sport going? Because we all agree that right now college athletics, but it's probably mainly football, is really in bad shape, man. And I think there's a lot of good coaches and conferences that want to get this thing together because we all love college football, but we see it going in a bad direction, in a bad way. Anything else you want to add about this whole college athletics discussion?
Just simply bad leadership, and that leadership is the NCAA. It's time to get rid of them, but we first have to have a solution before anything like that can happen. other than, hey, Big Ten, SEC, let's get together and do our own thing. Has to be some type of solution that makes sense and to where you have actual consequences if you break the rules.
Yeah, you did say earlier that those four Power Four conferences should get together, sit down, and then and I agree with this. I think they all could come up with the rules that are going to govern college football as it affects the Power Four conferences, and because they really don't have to really necessarily worry about the Group of Five and the lower tier teams. They can work on that themselves, whatever rules they want to come up with. But when you're playing in these four Power Four conferences, they should be able to meet, decide what rules they want to govern college athletics, and go from there. They don't necessarily need the NCAA to do that. And since it seems like the NCAA does not have the power that it once had, because of what we see happening locally with some of these overturning of some of the NCAA's decisions, those four conferences need to get together and make it happen and not be looking at it as if I got to do what's best for the Big Ten. I got to do what's best for the SEC. I got to do what's best for the ACC, or I got to do what's best for the the Big 12. It should be about we got to do what's best for college athletics and these young people who we know is bringing in all this revenue to our universities and to these sports.
The backbone of the university. And as I stated, just basketball and football. You take basketball and football away from these universities, they're struggling. And
Yeah,
some of them just gonna close down.
some of them are definitely going to have to close up shop, man, because it's just not going to be lucrative. It's not going to be enough in the budget for them to be able to do what they want to do. And I think that's sad because I think everybody should be trying to pull their resources to help the smaller schools out in some kind of way. But I think at some point it's going to fold up. Let's tackle what Old Texas Tech man is saying about the basketball game last night with the Knicks and the Spurs. He's saying, let's talk basketball. The Knicks got hosed last night. Referees got paid off by the Spurs or by the commissioner. I only watched a little bit of that game, man. I didn't get to see it down the stretch in the second half. What's your thoughts on that? Did you get to see the game at all?
Yeah, I did. And if they let the players play, this really would have been a sweep. This would have been a sweep, and New York was supposed to win last night. But you already know how I think about these games. So I'm more interested now to see tomorrow. To see what happens tomorrow. The viewership for this game tomorrow is gonna be great. You know, although people have lost that fire for the NBA because there's a lot of people out here, whether Griff or whoever want to believe it or not. But there's a lot of people out here that don't believe that sports are real anymore. So they have turned the TV off, whether it be the NBA or the NFL. A lot of people who've been watching sports all of their lives have turned the TV off in these past few years. So I'm more interested in the game tomorrow because New York, I saw San Antonio can't beat New York if they just play with some refs that just gonna call the game like it's supposed to be called. They can't beat New York right now. So I said it was gonna go 7 at the beginning of the series. I said because that's what the NBA want. But as I saw New York in them first 2 games, and then even into the third quarter yesterday, I said that the Knicks gonna sweep them. I just didn't see San Antonio having enough to pull out a game because New York just kept finding ways. If they got down, they kept finding ways to get back, and they kept finding ways to be victorious at the end of the game. And, New York has been kicking ass, as I said, throughout these whole playoffs. Once you take away their first 2 or 3 games, I think, in round one.
Yeah, I do remember you saying on Sunday that you felt like the Knicks should be able to sweep them, but you knew that the NBA was going to step in there and make sure they don't lose no money. And I think we saw that yesterday. If you watched that game down the stretch, you saw that yesterday. And old Texas Tech man said that Hamby should have gotten a flagrant one on that foul that he had, and that's probably the truth. That's probably the truth. SEC shot, I totally agree with you, bro. Those four, meaning the Power Four conferences, can't agree on what color shirt to wear to the meeting is one problem. Man, listen, they can't agree on nothing, man. But I think it all stems from the fact that they all want to look out for what they feel like is the best interest of their conference instead of looking out what's the best interest of college athletics and our young people. That should be the sole concern, not what is best for one conference over another, but what is best for all the conferences as a whole and the young people that we serve. I think that should be the goal. But of course, we already know that they ain't thinking about that. They're trying to see what's best for each one of those conferences. But I think they'll get to the point where they see the writing on the wall and see that they have to all come together and make the right decisions for the betterment of the whole as opposed to each individual conference. T1, I appreciate you joining me this evening, man. I thought I was going to have to roll solo, so I appreciate you coming in. You too, Texas Tech, old Texas Tech man, 9144. You have a good evening as well. We about to get out of here too. I appreciate you, T1. Thanks for jumping in.
No problem,
If you're
bro.
out there in the chat, check out all of our channels scrolling at the bottom. Please hit us all up and subscribe to our channel. Also, check us out on Patreon and Spotify at WTP Sports Dudes 2026. And also go check out our website at WTPSportsDudes.com. Take us out, T1.
Y'all know the drill, man. We was in the building. Now we up out of here. Peace.
All right, bro. Peace.
All right, love you, bro.
Love you too, bro.